Good morning, Prof. How are you this morning? Well, this beautiful morning.
Beautiful week. It hasn't been comfortable weather. And I know on Monday, I believe we had the spring equinox. So that was the day where the day and night, daylight and
Yes.
night equal in length. So now the days are actually longer.
They are longer indeed. You know, I couldn't believe it throughout the week, the kind of weather we had.
Yes.
Like I have went out without coats or anything, and I'm like, here is the taste of summer.
Don't say too loud before we have a snowstorm next week.
I know, but it is great actually. And you know, when the sun is out, it kind of brightens up everything, you know. So really glad, because for me at work, everyone seemed to be very happy, and I'm sure it's the sun that is helping them. God help every single person. But yes, I had a very good week. I hope you had a good one too, Prof.
Yes, good week, of course. Today is the last day of people filling their stomachs before we start the 3-week push tomorrow. So
why did you just leave that till tomorrow? Because like now I'll be thinking, okay, how much can I eat before end of today? You know.
all good.
That's great. Viewers, thank you for joining us this morning. It's great to have you on the show. As we always say, please do let your friends and family know that we are live and you can come and join us. I mean, this is a fun show just before service. So for today, Prof, you know, we had a conversation last week, and today I was thinking, you know, let's just look at some things in terms of Christianity and us as a people, because we know that the whole essence of this show is that we learn and we try to better ourselves in terms of our work with God. So I have a question for you this morning, and as you know, I always come with questions hoping that you have the answers, that you always do anyway. So, and the question really is to do with you know, when we're having conversations with Christians, and how sometimes it is so difficult to understand what people are saying. So now it could be maybe you went out to seek advice from someone that is a Christian as you are, and the person start to speak to you, quoting scriptures, saying different things. I mean, the words literally that they are saying, just like what I am saying now, you know, I am saying this and it means this, but in terms of in relation to the issue at hand or the subject you're trying to discuss, or the problem you're looking for a solution for, it doesn't match, you know, like it feels like you're physical and someone is spiritual, you know, that kind of a thing. And you're trying to marry both of them, and it's just not working. Why is it that we experience this with Christians? And when I say with Christians, even with myself as well, you know? So, as I said, this is putting you on the spot.
It's a conversation, right? I don't have all the answers.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely not giving any answer. You're giving me the answer, Prof. Yes, go on.
If I understand correctly, what you're talking about is this disconnect, right? Disconnect in communication. And I'll put it in plain terms. I think that sometimes when you speak to people who are self-identified and described as Christians, and you speak to them outside of the context of church, it's almost like they are speaking a foreign language. It's difficult to actually sometimes understand what is being said. Sometimes there are so many, well, as far as an outsider is concerned, so many slangs that make it really difficult to actually get to the bottom of what is being said. And sometimes it can come across as insincere. Because if outside of certain, you know, when you're talking to just normal people outside, you're very straight to the point, right? You're very clear about what you're saying. If you say, come here, you mean come here, right? If you want to say sit down, you sit down. Then a Christian comes to you and says, ascend to the heights of glory. And you think, I just don't know what you said. Don't know what you just said. You're trying to say to me. And then you start to ask yourself, why is this person trying to hide behind words? Are they trying to deceive me? Because usually you say, if somebody's not, you know, plain speaking, they're not. If it's not plain talk, you think this person is trying to defraud me. That's why they're using.
I know.
Right? So I think what you're talking of is this disconnect. And you know, there is this part of scripture where Paul was writing to Philemon, who was a slave owner, and his slave Onesimus had run away. And Paul was sending him back. And Paul had written, I'm smiling because I know that by itself is another conversation, right? But
It is, yes.
Paul
You're
said,
calling some names.
and he wrote, and he said he was just introducing that letter. Ultimately, the letter was trying to say to him, don't take things out too hard on Onesimus, because you yourself, you're a free man, you're a slave to Christ, and so forth. So in Christ, we're all the same, so forth. But he said this in verse 6 of that letter. He said that communicating your faith, when you're sharing your faith, it's effectual, right? That was the gist of that sentence, right? There were other things mentioned. I was saying, right, the communication of your faith, when you're talking about your faith, when you're talking to people who may not have the same faith as you do, it needs to be, right? But if you talk about effectiveness of communication, the very first thing needs to be that the communication gets through, and there's no point in me. I don't know whether you speak French, Bibby, but if I start rattle on right now in French to you, no matter how sensible what I'm saying is, if you can't understand what I'm saying, then there is no communication.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that too often the mistake we make is that when we're communicating, we forget that our communication is primarily for the benefit of the recipient, not for our own benefit. It's primarily the person that we're speaking to. So sometimes we forget that, and then we're speaking in a language that we understand, that benefits us, and maybe we're comfortable with. Right? But we do that completely, totally at the expense of communication. We are not communicating. What we are doing is just speaking words and saying things that we're familiar with, and we're wondering, why are they not getting it?
Yeah.
To share my faith with this person, but they don't seem to be buying what I'm selling. Why? And I think that that's something that we need to take a hard look at and ask ourselves the question, right? When we say we are sharing, are we really sharing? Are we doing things that we think, you know how it is that sometimes you speak to a politician, right?
Yeah.
Then they're just giving you, quotable quotes. You ask them a question, they don't answer your question. They
to the Constitution.
I know a lot of words were exchanged, but I don't think it was said.
Yes.
And usually when somebody does that as a politician, you say, of course they are trying to hide something. That's why they're not. That's why they're not speaking in English. And my concern is that sometimes when we speak our so-called Christianese, that's the same interpretation. You're hiding something. You're trying to conceal something. You're not being plain with me. That's why you're not, being very clear. And sometimes the issue is not that the people who are not being clear don't want to be clear. Sometimes the challenge is they don't know how to be clear. Right. And I'll end with this because I know we have to go for our spotlight minute. But some very wise people said this: if you think you know something very well, you should be able to communicate it very simply to somebody who knows nothing about it. If you're able to do that, then you don't know the thing as much as you think you do. Able to communicate your faith without defaulting to Christianese and to core scriptures and King James, then maybe you don't know your faith as much as
that's a very fair challenge there, Prof. I'm glad you ended it there. Viewers, please don't go anywhere. We're going for our spotlight minute immediately after the break. We'll see you shortly.
I see you swiping away. You need to be careful on these dating apps.
Calm down. I know what I'm doing.
You're acting like you've never seen Tinder Swindler.
Of course I watched the Tinder Swindler, but it can't be me.
I was sure they thought the same thing.
Me? Can you see me transferring £80, let alone 80k to some random guy?
But they transferred the money after they thought they knew him.
They transferred full stop. I mean, come on. It was gullible. It was crazy. It was insane.
Okay. Hold your thoughts. Let's talk about it.
Talk about it? Yes, let's talk about it next week on the 30th of March.
Yep, and you're invited too.
This should be interesting. It's going to be a fun and interactive debate on the Tinder Swindler.
Yeah, and we want to hear your thoughts. So please tune into all of House on the Rock's social platforms.
The Tinder Swindler had everyone talking about it. I mean, it caused a real stir of opinions and had everyone saying, my enemies are after me.
So let's talk about it.
Yep, let's talk about it. Next week on the 30th of March at 7 p.m. See you there.
See you there.
go.
Good morning. So, should I first of all say, Brother Shile? Is that how to pronounce your name? Shile, right?
Yes.
Yes.
That was
Good
actually
morning
going to be
to you.
that was going to be my next question. You see how I went hello and I didn't say anything. It's like, how do you pronounce that? But
Yes.
welcome, Brother Shile. How are you today? All good?
Yes. Fantastic. Thank you.
You know, this is we are on a streak, aren't we, Bibby? Because last week we also had somebody who was making their debut on SonRise.
Yes.
And here we've got another person making their debut on SonRise. So you see, we are going in leaps and bounds. But let's not get carried away now. I know you've got your own fan base, Brother Shile, and I would like you to talk to them today. But say to us and every other person that's watching, here's one thing about me that you didn't know before now.
Okay. But the one thing you didn't know about me before now is it will come as a shock. I've been attending House on the Rock for a very long time.
When you say very long time,
Yes.
yeah, it's like 1 week, 2 years,
No, years. I'm talking years.
10 years.
Probably about that time. I used to attend House on the Rock in Lagos before I moved to England, and then when I moved to England, short period of time, I was attending another church, but then I found out about House on the Rock, Holloway, and straight away I've been there ever since.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think you would find out that quite a few people will say, "What did I just hear?"
No. Yes, I know. It's like, okay, so where have you been? Oh, yes. I know why. You're not part of the workforce yet, I think. That's why so yes, if you've been around for that long, definitely I'm sure you're gonna be needed in any of the departments that are within the church. So yes, but it's so great to have you on the show. Viewers, please do make welcome our Brother Shile, who has been in Us on the Rock for years, and I literally feel like I'm just meeting you for the first time, but anyways, thank you for joining us this morning. You've joined for our spotlight segment, and in this segment what we do basically is just to share experiences, just hear about people's lived experiences and learn one or two things from it. So we're glad you have joined us today, and this morning we'd like to ask you, what experience would you like to share with us today?
The experience I would like to share is how I give my life to Christ.
Oh, nice. I love that. Yes. Okay, let's go for it. I'm sure, Prof will tell us if you gave your life the right way or not, because he's a minister. But yes, I'm very, very ready to hear, and I'm sure our viewers can't wait to hear this. But Shile, please go for it. Tell us a bit more.
This was back in Nigeria before I ever moved to England. I used to go to a boarding school, in Ogun State, and I remember so well. So I heard someone preaching about Christ, and I just started crying, and I knew that they were preaching and praying, and at that point I knew I wanted to know this person they were talking about.
Wow.
So hang on, sorry, were they talking to you, or they were doing something else, minding their own business, and you just overheard them?
Yeah, they were minding their own business. I can remember so well. It was dark, obviously. NEPA had struck, so it was dark. They were preaching, and we were all outside of the dormitories, and they were preaching to somebody else, and a bunch of guys were praying. I just saw them, and that really moved me.
So this is very interesting. Do you understand? Because you weren't being preached to directly. They were just going about their own business, and you were there one side, and everything they said brought you to tears that got you to give your life to Christ. What was it that they said? Where were you at that point in your life? because I feel like they probably said the right words at the right time and got you there.
Yes. So I was in junior, we call it GSS back then. I was in junior secondary school, and I remember I was stood on a step, because for you to get into the dormitory, you had to go on a flight of stairs, and I just stood, and it was just ministering to the person. I wasn't doing anything. I was just for some weird reason I was just listening, and I could see them praying, and I saw so much joy, But I was just crying, and I was like, I need to know this person they're talking about. I used to come from a Muslim family. We became Christians. but still, like, we were not. I hate to no. We transferred to the Christian religion basically.
Yes.
But I didn't have an encounter with Christ up until that day.
Oh my goodness. See, this is like, you didn't choose me, I chose you. Like, you were just there and God was looking out for you. And you just had to get that message to you right at the time, So after you felt that, and on that day, was it on the day you actually confessed that you were giving your life to Christ, or did you then have to like maybe go to a church the next day or speak to somebody, or how did you go about that?
It was literally that night, I went to meet them. I walked up to them myself and I was like, I need to know this person you're talking about. I want to be part of this. I want to know what this joy is like, how you guys do this, because prior to then I'd seen people preach and talk about it. It just never struck a chord or anything. But that particular, I guess it was that was the appointed time for me.
Wow, praise God. So I mean, you're here today because of that thing that happened on that night. So for that experience, why did it have such an impact on you?
Oh, okay. Is that an impact on me in two ways? The first one is, after that, I said to myself, I wanted all my family members to be saved. Like, I wanted all to know Christ. And I remember I even witnessed Christ to my mom, because I was young, she was laughing. She just came back from England then. Obviously I was like, oh man, and I prayed about it. And I thank God, my whole family now were now born again Christians, which is amazing.
God, praise God.
And then the second impact is Pastor Tony called for this is pre-COVID, 1 in 10 or 1 to 10, something like that. Yeah.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, evangelism team and all that. I do not know how to evangelize, but there's this prayer thing we do on Saturdays, and that it reminds me of that day that somebody was somewhere praying for me. Praying, they might have not mentioned my name. They probably, they knew me, but they weren't praying for me in particular. They were just praying, and I believe part of the prayer was what made me confess Christ. What led me to Christ. So I would always join prayer calls on Saturday because I know the power of prayers. I know what prayer does.
Wow. Do you know, I can only say that I tap into your testimony that all family members of yours are now Christians, because I still have some family members that I'm trusting God for their lives as well. So yes, I tap into that. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. So for our viewers who are home this morning or in church already and are watching this, what would be that one takeaway that you would want them to take away from this?
Sorry?
Yes, sorry. So I was saying that for our viewers who are watching from home today, what would be that one takeaway that you want them to take away from this today?
Oh, I've only got one thing. Please join prayers for souls on Saturdays.
Excellent. See, thank you so very much, Bro Shile. So great to have you on the show. Wouldn't have been anyone. It's great to have you. Thank you. Viewers, please to make love on this man of God, we're here with us this morning. We really appreciate your time. And so the next time you come on this show, I'm sure you're going to be preaching, I'm sure. But anyways, thank you very much. We will see you in service. Okay. All right. Speak soon.
Bye.
Welcome back, viewers. Thank you again for joining us, Bro Shile. In fact, Prof, I was blown away, just what we were discussing before we went into Spotlight segment and see what Bro Shile shared with us. And you were just talking about, communication and how effective our communication or ineffective our communication can be. So from everything you shared in the first segment of this show, viewers, if you've missed that segment, you want to go back and watch after today's show. Prof, from all that you shared earlier, now, it's all about the practical steps that we can take as Christians. So what are those practical steps that you can share with us in terms of, making our communication more effective, especially from a Christian perspective?
Yeah, thank you, Bibby. I think that, the funny thing, I actually think that this is not something unique to Christianity. I think that when you have people and they have an insider language, the challenge is always to remember, unless of course it's designed to be completely for insiders, right? So no outsiders are welcome, in which case you keep your insider language. But if you want, quote, outsiders, people who don't know that language, to be part of the conversation, then you need to first of all ask yourself this question. Maybe challenge yourself. Am I using insider language?
For someone who's not an insider. Yeah.
Exactly. Now you have to call yourself, because you may not realize it. And then you ask, is there a different way to say what I've just said? If I say this thing, if I walked up to Mr. Joe Bloggs, or Miss Jendo on the road, said, the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh.
That means.
You have to understand, would the person look at me and think, you're weird, and just walk away? If I want to have a conversation with somebody at work, is that how I would really speak? If I in a conversation, in a board meeting, I wanted to, share something really important, how would I talk? If I was speaking to somebody on the tube, so why is it that I speak differently? Once it comes to my faith, everything just becomes suddenly very weird and very strange. I use all of these words. So you have to ask yourself that question. And I think it's a very simple test. The simple test is, if I walked up, say, to a child or somebody who is not part of my group, and I said this to them, how would they regard me? And if you think that person would look at you and think you're strange, don't say that you're being persecuted. It's because, honestly, you look strange to them, right? Imagine you would feel if you went again to another group of people that is not your group, another Christian, another faith, or another kind of community, and they did exactly. How would you feel about that? You would say, I don't want to be part of this. So I think the first question needs to be a long, hard look at ourselves and asking ourselves the question. Number one, am I actually, being obtuse here, not being clear, hiding behind words? Number one. If the answer is yes, number two, why? Why am I? Back I said before we ended last time, is it because I don't know enough about my faith? I'm not confident enough about it to actually talk plainly about my faith. That means that every time I want to speak, I use other people's words. I hide behind scriptures in King James or things that I because I don't really understand it, I'm not going to make the effort to make it clear to somebody else. And if the answer to that is yes, because I don't understand it, the next thing you have to say to yourself is, then I need to change this.
Yes.
Because the experience share we just had, this was somebody talking to somebody else. And somebody heard that conversation and said, I want this. I want to be a part of this. Heard somebody speaking in a language you don't understand and sounding all very weird. You would not say, I want to be part of this. If anything,
imagine if they were speaking in tongues.
you would cross the road. I'll walk all the way to the other side because right. So I think we have there's an element of when you're doing insider stuff and it's insider stuff, that's fine. When we are thinking of communicating and sharing, we have to remember primarily it's for the benefit of the person we are speaking to. It needs to be plain, it needs to be clear, it needs to be understandable. No hiding behind words, no using big words or words that don't really mean much, certainly not to most people. We need to, if we can't explain it simply and plainly and speak it in plain language, then maybe we don't know it as much as
we're not communicating.
So I think that's what we need to think about. And we really need to go down to the basics. Every time you want to say something, how can I say this that is acceptable to the person I'm speaking to without sounding so complex and out of this world? But yeah.
Wow, thank you very much, Prof. I think that was really profound. We should just first of all look at ourselves first, check how we are communicating, and just put yourself in the shoes of the person you're speaking to and see how you would feel. Thank you very much, Prof. And viewers, don't forget what Bro Shile said. Join Saturday prayers. Join Saturday prayers to pray for souls. God bless you all for joining us today. Prof, it is time for service, and as always, please take us into service.
Thank you, Bibby. I think that today's the last Sunday of the month. Well, I'll tell you another one. It's the last Sunday of the first quarter.
Quarter. Yeah. That's the first quarter of the year gone.
Exactly. So by next Sunday, saying we're in April. So you know what? We thank God, right? There's progress. But I think that we've heard a lot, and think of all the shares we've had in SonRise, at SonRise in this quarter, and all the things we've heard as well in the church, and Pastor Amy has spoken, and all the other people that have that have shared with us. I think that what we want to do is that as we go into service today, let's do it with a mindset of advancement. Let's do it with a growth mindset, right? Time doesn't wait. How can we press forward and make this second quarter that we're going to even better than the one that we're just coming to the end of? It's Thanksgiving Sunday. We're going to the Rock Tower right now. Don't go anywhere. God bless you. See you there.
See you there.